This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, but rocking a I Love Toronto background because I love Toronto a lot more than I do New Brunswick. So there you go. Take it for what it is. But here we are on February the 3rd, 2025. And folks, I have a four-time guest on here today. You know, he uh, he appears in Microwave Massacre, as well as numerous James Balsamo movies. I appear in nine of those, and he probably appears in more than that. Folks, he started out going to Malibu High, and now he's on Zoom with me. So that's your graduation class.
Love it.
Folks, I give you Craig Muckler. How do you do, Craig?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Back in the old days, they introduced me because of my little stutter.
Uh-huh.
Craig Muckler, because even on my TV show, which was big #1 public access show in the nation, they even sang Craig Muckler's Hollywood Showcase. It was funny. So I used my stutter, which was evil back. And I was held back because they thought it was slow, but my stutter became my calling card. And why I moved to Hollywood, because I knew I wouldn't stutter if I'm on the big screen. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, you
Malibu
were.
High, of course, was my first film.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had mentioned before we got on here that I'd interviewed Alan Holtzman recently, and yeah, you asked if your name had brought up. I never knew you two knew each other, but yeah, I had Alan Holtzman on I think it was last Friday talking about Grunt the wrestling movie and
Oh, God.
yeah, and
Wow.
various other projects, and but that was the highlight. And uh anyway, you have mentioned your connection with him. So how did you two come to be affiliated with each other?
In the early 80s, I already did Malibu High. Microwave Massacre hadn't been released yet. Malibu High was one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite films, and three of us
Mm-hmm.
made it. And #1 drive-in film back then. $100,000 brought in over $3 million back in those days, and it really was my calling card. The guy, the sound man from Malibu High, and the other producer, Tom Singer, we went on to do Microwave Massacre. Just we hit it off, obviously, as cult crazy people. So anyway, this one guy, Michael Morrison, came. I used to run a movie theater in Tarzana,
Mm-hmm.
even when I was making movies. And all the famous people in the valleys, I became friends with everyone. My next door neighbor was John J.R. Robinson, #1 session drummer in the world for Michael Jackson, off the wall, Bobby Watson, D. Wallace. D.
Yep,
Wallace and I became
I've
friends.
met Dee. We're both in 13 Fanboy. Um,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
she's been on here a couple times.
So so the fun thing is running this freaking movie theater gave me a chance, and I'm making movies, so I become friends with these celebrities, knowing that maybe I'll put them in a movie. Dee Wallace dropped on by. She did The Hills Have Eyes, and it turns out we had a lot in common because Wes Craven helped talk me into using his art director, Robert Burns, #1 art director in the world for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and did The Hills Have Eyes. So I became friends with Michael Berryman, D. Wallace, all these people, and and then I started this TV show because Michael Morrison, producer, said, "Look, Craig, you're a funny guy. You stutter or not, get out there." So I started my TV show. My first one, I was Craig Muckler's Hollywood Showcase, and I knew I would stutter on it, but it didn't matter. And I became a kind of a person with speech handicaps looked up to me because it says, if I can do it, you can all do it. Don't worry about it. It's worrying about it. So I went on my show and I met Alan Holzman, who was a bad stutterer at some event. He was Roger Corman's #1 editor for Battle Beyond the Stars, all these things. So we're talking. He says, I'm a bad stutterer too. I have a new movie that's coming out. He says, come on my first show. 1982, Alan Holzman was on my very first show in 1982. And Roger Corman himself brought down a clip, or one of his people, of Forbidden World, so we can show. It's no lie. So I'm talking to Alan Holden, introduced him, and we're both kind of stuttering. It's kind of fun, but we're laughing at it. So, yeah, what the heck is this? And then Alan tells me this story. Great story. He said, look, Craig, I stutter, you stutter. And one day I'll go up to Roger Corman in the parking lot and says, Roger, can I? It says, I'll see you in the morning, Alan. Anyway, next morning, Roger Corman goes up to Alan and says, all right, you're going to direct Forbidden World. That's no lie, true story. And so when I was the first TV show to advertise Forbidden World, which is a smash hit. And then from then on, Alan and I were best friends ever. And in fact, when David Bond and I wrote Microwave Massacre, Don't Go in the Oven, which is, we'll kind of do it sometime, great sequel that Dee Wallace, in fact, loves the script. And Alan, last year says, I want to direct it, and I have a movie called Scorn to shoot in Minnesota. I want you to help produce it because of your rebates and name and everything. So now we're attached, and originally Ripped to Shreds, which we wrote like 9 years ago. Originally, Joe Schoen was going to be a producer on it. And it become a brilliant script, not a $100,000 film. That Bruce Davison says the best script since Willard. And one of my dear friends is Spencer Wilding, Darth Vader, Star Wars Rogue One, The Wolfman and the Wolfman. And we've gone to a couple shows together because we go, I go to all these horror conventions all over the place all the time. So he's attached, the #1 monster actor in the world, to Rip the Shreds. And obviously, Alan, I want involved directly. After all, he won the Emmy for Steven Spielberg's Survivors of the Holocaust. So anyway, we both became, he wrote a book on stuttering and did a documentary called Cut. And the very big first show that he and I were on, we opened his movie. And now I'm writing a new book called CM Celebrity Magnet from Stutterer to Talk Show Host. It's great. Barbara Ligeti herself, who actually did hire Sean Penn and Joe Schoen for Hurly Burly in 1988, Westwood. She won the Tony Award for on Broadway for Hurly Burly. And and she is the manager for Billy Hayes, one of my best friends, of Midnight Express.
Yep, I know that movie.
And Billy Hayes, close friend, and Barbara became close. And he said, Barbara, you help Craig get his book going, and his story. And then she says, maybe we can do a one-man show on him like you do yours. It's not like she brought it up at the Odyssey Theater in Los Angeles. And then Billy Hayes says, Craig has a better story than I, just because there's no one like him ever to do what he's done with a major stutter, held back because they thought he was slow, far from it. And and I told Billy one day, I said, look, Billy, yeah, but I was never in a Turkish prison. And you know what Billy said? Yes. He said, yeah, but I bet you were in a Turkish bath. Funnier than heck. So this day, that's where Ellen and I, we were bound to do movies together. And all these days, he's always, and David Bond, my co-writer, co-producer, did Graduation Day. He was the head of Crown International Pictures. And so for years, he's my writing partner. So we'll be doing together, hopefully Evil Black Widow, but especially Rip to Shreds and Microwave Massacre, Don't Go in the Oven. Hopefully this coming year, with top people. I've even become friends with Sochi Bacon.
Oh yeah, Smile.
Smile. Because why? Her mother, Kira Sedgwick, is a true great friend of mine. Last year, as you may have talked on my last show, I was doing national radio show with Kathy Colvin Pacino, right? National on
Mm-hmm.
Easy Radio. And my first show over, well, like, I don't know, way over a year ago was I had Chris Mulkey of Twin Peaks, John Volstead, Leprechaun, or the first Leprechaun, and Larry Darrow and Daryl. And then our last show, back was Spencer Wilde, and he taped it from Ireland or England. And she and I were best friends. And her husband, William Lashbrook, were family to me. Every time I go to LA, they were there. I haven't heard that Al Pacino even thanked me through the grapevine. Thank you for bringing my dear Catherine Colvin Pacino on board to get her active. You know that from Al Pacino?
Yeah.
And so they were best friends. We were doing it, and they were going to be directly involved in Rip to Shreds and everything else. Well, suddenly, back in May, she died suddenly with a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Family. Oh, yeah, and it hurt us all. And Bill Lashbrook. So anyway, we decided, David Bond and Kathy, and Pamela Clay, right?
Mm-hmm.
To continue the radio show. And one of my best friends, honest to God, had a top show in LA, Repo Radio. But the number one show on True TV for 7 years, helped make the studio 100 million. Lou Pizarro himself, Operation Repo, number one, and still back on the air on Roku and all this other stuff. Anyway, he and I became close friends. So he is going to co-host my radio show with Bill Lashbrook and Pamela Clay, the number one cabaret singer in LA. Been a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how Joe Sholin introduced me to her in the acting class. So our show's coming hopefully back this year. We're hopefully on Sirius Radio.
Okay.
So I want everyone out there to look for this, man, because you can still find copies of Kathy Pacino, marvelous. But we're doing it for her, and her spirit is with us. And we're going to have all my friends on the show, everyone. Spencer Wilde, Mick Garris is a good friend, right? Mick Garris, The Stand. He showed up for myself, Kate Parker, when we had the Dark Galaxy showing of A Tabloid Identity. Tabloid Identity was number one in the top documentary the last few years, came out in 2018. And Kate Parker, number one adult film star in the world, transformed herself into the number one metaphysical counselor in the freaking world, helping people with suicidal issues, this and that. And Jill Schoen's first film in 30-some years, I got her on board. She's my star interviewer. It was so great. I flew her back here to Minnesota, where we had the world premiere, and then played 3 Laemmle theaters in Los Angeles. I mean, you can't beat that. Playing in Los Angeles, and with Jill Schoen's first, she was marvelous in it, and it was just great with Adam Rifkin, was friends with Kay. He's in it. Bill Margold, all that. Sika is in the movie, and they all wanted to be in it because it was spiritual, not about the porn, but spirituality. And I'm so happy that. And a few months ago, when Midnight Express returned, Billy Hayes' movie about a documentary, which he invited me to a few years ago, and to be on the red carpet with him, Barbara Ligeti, Anthony Marinelli, Joe Schoen's ex-husband, by the way, did the musical score. And when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, recently, for Cinema Wasteland, 1,000 people showed up to me. We showed A Tabloid Identity, and I got a standing ovation. And a Cleveland, Ohio person came up and said, Craig, I saw it when it came out. This is much better than I even remember. It holds up better than most documentaries. So what an honor in her behalf to be named one of the top documentaries of the last 10 years. My movie, A Tabloid Identity, which I directed, David W. Wall, number one sexual theorist in the world, also did it. And it was phenomenal to see it Everyone says, "Oh my, the microwave massacre, Angry Asian Murder Hornets, still a spiritual documentary." He says, "Yeah, I had it in me." So it's kind of fun, Greg. You know, it broadened my horizon,
You've done a
and
number of stuff,
and
huh?
yeah, so yeah, it broadened my horizons. You know.
You've done a number of stuff with James Balsamo, and I've had him on here a number of times as well. I think he's been on here six
Yeah,
times, if I remember correctly. Um,
I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but um, anyway, have
Well,
you got any
you
projects with
know,
James coming up?
well, we were talking because here's the scoop. I did 8, 9 films with him. The great story is back in like 2018, you know, this guy friend of mine wanted me to pick up because he managed Eric Roberts. So
Yeah.
I went up to his house one night on a Monday, you know, early evening, picked up Eric Roberts and meet his wife Elijah Roberts, right?
Mhm.
We're in the car and we go past and says, "Oh, there's Emma. There's Emma's house." Emma Roberts, you know, his daughter. And so
Hmm.
we go to this big mansion, right? And there's you know, all this films, camera work, you know, lights going up. And this is funny. Back in 2000, I'm trying to think, 18 or so, there was a show in a horror convention called Tampa's Horrors or whatever, Tampa Bay Screams. And Robert and James Balsamo, as it turns out, didn't know, had a booth, and he was right next to Joe Sholin, of all people. He says, "Oh my God, you're in Craig's movies?" Yeah, I mean, you know, at the time, Joe and I were having a little difficulties, right? She's like my sister. You know, we had like almost like family squabbling, right? We're too close, you know. But oh well, that's, you know, that's what happens when you love each other too much. I mean, as friends. But anyway, he said, "One day I'm going to work with him. He's a master in cult." So a year later, here I am at this big mansion. Who's the first person? It was Tuesday night, who happened to have been at a horror convention in Minnesota with myself and Joe Shulman and Suzanne Snyder, just by chance.
I just met Suzanne Snyder at Frightmare in the Falls.
Is that right?
Hmm.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I met her and I
I
did
was
a photo op with her.
really,
Hmm.
because in 2016, when I had, you know, Joe on, you know, I brought her. In a way, I was kind of her edge. For horror conventions, she never had to pay me, like her manager Sean Clark, right? But
Uh-huh.
anyway, so Suzanne Snyder, "Can I bring one of my best friends to the show?" And she, as a guest, I said, "Yeah, I'll set it up." I set it up for her, and Tom Matthews would show up, 2016, and it was great. And we had the time of our lives back in those days when Joe and I were like inseparable as friends, as drinking buddies, right? And
Yep.
stuff. So Suzanne, I mean, really, holy shit, man, we could
You me.
probably stand a few times, Joe and I. You know what I mean? Anyway, there's what I love her. But anyway, so Suzanne Snyder came, and all weekend we hung out. Who happened to have been there? I also, one of my dearest friends, you know, is Chris Mulkey of Twin Peaks. He's been involved in 2 films with me already. Hand That Feeds, his co-star, which I took home best horror film of the year last year for at Crypticon. Best horror for The Hand That Feeds. Chris was in it, so he was there. Well, hung out all weekend. It was so much fun. William Cott was there too, by the way. 2016 horror convention. William Cott, and so we're all going upstairs to the 13th floor. That eat, you know, tacos, you know, with the fans. And William Cott comes to Chris and I, "Can I come with you guys?" He says, "Yeah. That Jill and Susan are still cute."
You me. Yeah.
I, I told Jill, "He thinks you're cute." She says, "Oh my God, thank you. We still think he's cute." Isn't that funny? Sorry, Carrie. Well, these great, good stories. So anyways, yeah, Suzanne Snyder. So we go back because of that stuff, right? Now I lost
Uh-huh.
my train of freaking thought. What the heck was I talking about? Oh, what was I talking about?
I wanted to ask you because you brought this up
Yeah.
before, and I hope it's not too personal, but I'm going to bring it up because you mentioned, friction or separation or whatever from Jill Shrulin. Like I've never had her on here. I've never met her. What happened between you two?
Oh my God, it's well back in the day. I mean, I almost don't want to mention it because we were back in the early days. She called me a lot, this and that, and I even broke up with my girlfriend at the time because he said you could. She calls you at the wrong time, but I'm fashionable. And this is one of the things with me.
Uh-huh.
I had a bad stutter, as I said, growing up. I was
Yeah.
held back.
Uh-huh.
I was held back, and you remember and Rock Hudson's mother would stay with us every summer at our lake place, right? I think you knew
Hmm.
that. Rock had the biggest star in the freaking world. So when I was age 13, we all spent Christmas vacation out at their house and the rocks, and he said, "You're going to make it, Craig. Don't let your stutter hamper me." But it hampered me because then when I started talking, getting over it, I was in a rock band. I always had the tendency when I got excited to call people, overdo it, because when I was growing up, I couldn't even talk, let alone explain things. So I got excited and tell people. Even my shrink said that. And I
Uh-huh.
did it to even friends now, like David Bond, Pamela Place, Joe Sholin, the same thing. So sometimes you over emailing her. You know what I mean? Over emailing her, over
Okay.
contacting her. That
Yeah.
was a big
Yeah.
reason. And I think, man, I mean, that was it. And she knew it, but she was kind of into her. I don't want to get too detailed because I love her, but you know what Kate Parker said, right?
Hmm.
So and she told us to our face over lunch, you and Craig Muckler, Joe, are mirror images of each other, like I've never seen. He says, if you believe in past lives, I believe you were in a few past lives. So that's kind of what happened there. We had this friction back on, and at the time, I don't think things were quite happening quick enough for her. Just between you and I, she said, "Craig, I miss you. Uh, you know how much I love you. You know how much I care about you. You know what she's because I got her in her first movie. I was going to have her direct a film called Howard Lake that Bruce Davison was going to be directly involved with, and we met with Bruce Davison. Bruce Davison
Hmm.
and Bob Cummings, my co, who had a story called Howard Lake about a 1890s murder mystery in Howard Lake, Minnesota. They never found out who did it. And you know what? We were at a horror convention once, Jill and myself, and this one movie, this guy wanted me and my partners to produce, um, called Experimental Insanity, and the big sign and my name. And she said, "What's that, Craig?" She says, "Oh, that's great. They want me to get involved because of my." I just passed her out. Passed her out. How would you like to direct it? Her eyes open wide. Really? I mean, shocked. No one's ever asked her to direct. No, but I did. And then next day she said, "Craig, you know what I really want to direct? If you let me." And Bob says, "What?" That axe murder mystery on Howard Lake. No shit. So I told Bob, let's have her direct it. The next day, she is our director. Months later, we meet in L.A. David Bond, my partner, Bruce Davison himself, who has ties to Minnesota. This is funny. I've been friends with Bruce Davison for a while, and his wife has ties. They used to come back to Minnesota, right? So they knew I was from Minnesota. Tie-on, ice fishing. So we're talking about, and that day, Joe Sholin says, the best title, Bob, Craig, Dave, Bruce, is just called the movie Howard Lake. And Bruce Davison came up with some great ideas. Does that mean Bruce Davison? So all of the below, and he was infatuated with her, obviously. He put his arm around her at least 10 times in the meeting. Bruce Davison, obviously, she's so cute, right? And so anyway, in fact, I still remember this. we're walking back. I'm walking back to the car after the meeting, and I don't know, Jerry's Deli or something. And she says, "Oh, I love that Bruce Davison." He says, "Well, what do you think he likes you?" Joking. He's a good guy. But at the meeting, you know what she said? "Bruce, how did you and Craig meet?" "Oh, in Minnesota ice fishing." He told her that. Well, that makes sense. And I said, "Bruce, I never ice fished in my freaking life." You know what I mean? So I knew it would get her. So anyway, from then on, we were going to, and then after 2018, when she went back to that horror convention, there was some guy called, Craig Muckler was trying to get in the show for you. Do you know him? Yeah, well, she got kind of pissed off. She always go through me because she wanted to be the boss, in a sense, but she loved me, but she listened to me and vice versa. And then when I emailed one time, a year later, she told Bob, because I emailed some good stuff because I was getting publicity. I emailed her this thing that I was in, AP cover story of the freaking year, the Washington Times, Minnesota Times, all this great stuff. And her name was, and she told Bob, "I can't work the Muckler way." Honest to God. I can't work the Muckler way. So, Bob said, "Well, we can't have friction if I'm going to have the money." So that was kind of ended it right there. And through the next few years, we're back and forth, and but she hadn't done anything since. And and the funny thing, she lit me up because I loved her, but she was my go-to. She ignited me because that year, that's when I first met James Balsamo, and he said, at that house, remember I told you?
Yeah.
Well, I go in the house, and next thing you know, he comes up to me and says, "Craig, I met Jill, this and that, and on a fan years, and I want you in this movie. It wants blood."
Yeah, it's
Next thing
got
I know, I put the suit up. Yeah,
Eric Roberts watching me on a television.
really? Oh, yeah. And Tuesday, I met Tuesday night. The funny, she's there at Cripscon, Minnesota, with Susan and Jill, and her mother remembers. "Oh yeah, hi, that's right. You were going to put my daughter in a movie." She said that. You remember that, right? Tuesday night. So anyway, next thing you know, she says, "All right, you're going to be," I forget that. Eric Roberts. He's the voodoo witchcraft senator, right, from hell.
Hmm.
And he said, "You're going to be his campaign, whether manager, finance, or campaign manager guy, right?" So next thing you know, here I am, and it's Eric Roberts. I go up to him and we're talking. He says, "Oh, thank you." Shake his hand and walk back. So next thing you know, that was my first thing with him.
That was my
With
second
James.
thing. That was my second thing with James Balsamo. I done
Really?
cool. Yeah,
Well,
Cool as Hell 2 was my first, but I think that
really?
out of the ones that I've seen, It Wants Blood,
Yeah.
I think was the best because like I said, I
It
just
had a
shot my
few more
footage and
bucks
it's
in it.
being watched on a television by Eric Roberts, and I'm like, you know what, that's pretty cool. I've never had Eric Roberts on the show here. I'd love to get him, but
Well,
anyway, yeah.
I became, I was still trying to bring back Hollywood Showcase. So, back in 2019, 20, I shot a lot of footage at Mark Perot's house. Mark Perot, famed guy, American whatever, the Polish vampire Burbank or whatever. So we shot a bunch of footage there, and his wife Elijah and Eric Roberts and I were interviewed each other for like half hour there. And then I had Brink Stevens on because I've been involved with her. Oh, she was on my second show, Brink Stevens, by the way, with Forrest J. Ackerman and John Buechler, by the way, just kind of a side note. So anyway, so I go out in September, and I'm gonna call my birthday from one of the biggest managers in Hollywood, Joe Williamson of the Williamson Agency, right? Oh, he's huge. And in fact, he does all Harley Wallen's movies. And he says, "Craig, I want you. I love you. You're so great." And ever since he's been my manager, and because of him, I've been involved directly in 4 Dustin Ferguson movies. Next thing I know, I'm involved his #1 documentary, Stale Popcorn, Sticky Floors. I'm in it with John Russo and Brinke Stevens as one of the top 15 cult people in the world. Then he wants me executive producer. I mean, this is all because of guy going out and so Joe Schoen, I think, pushed me on all this stuff, because next thing you know, all these people are asking me. And through him, I did Angry Asian Murder Hornets, changed to Murder Hornets. It's huge in Tokyo. I was executive, and they raised the money on my name. Then I did Arachnado, and of course, I'm very proud of this one. Bob Cummings, myself, we shot a good third of the movie back in Minnesota, and it's huge on Tubi right now. Is Demonoids from Hell. Holy shit! We shot it, and it's getting written up in all these horror magazines. So when you know Craig Muckler is going to be doing this stuff?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at that on here now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Julianne
it's great on
Prescott.
Tubi. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And then so Dustin, because of Joel Williamson, I'm in all these films. And guess what? Angry Asian Murder Hornets. They pushed my name at the top of the original one sheet from the producer of Microwave Massacre and his other film, 5G Zombies or whatever. In fact, the Hand That Feeds, when this horror film of the year played theaters.
Yeah.
It was a $250,000 film, and shot in Minnesota. It probably looks like $1 million. That again, they raised the money on my name from the on the top of it, from the producer of Microwave Massacre, and at the Twin Cities Film Festival. There I was the guest with Chris Mulkey was there, and because he's in it, and I accepted the award on TV for best horror film of the year. I mean, it's just amazing these last few years. And it all happened just about the time Joe and I had our, and we're coming back though. We had both issues together, medical issues, and we're both so I pray for her, she prays for me. So it's our relationship. I think it's coming back, and I love her, and she has issues, I have issues. So I says, let's have a olive branch. I mean, why? She was on one of my first shows in 1985. She was on my show with Tony and Gene Boo of Pepper Street and Bo Svensson on my same show. 2 years later, she and Bo are doing a movie together called Curse Through the Bite. So we go way back. And anyway, so all you people in the audience listening, Jill and I were best friends. She and I both have issues health issues, but we're both getting better. Have a prayer for Jill Schoen and Craig Muckler. We're back on track again as best friends. Okay? Mm-hmm. All your audience. It's in like 85. There's no reason for this. We have to be friends again. And maybe, and rip to shreds, we're going to do it. And when we first wrote it, I told my partners, I said, yeah, we want you, Joe, to be the associate producer. She even called me one day when we thought it was going to happen like 2015, but it didn't. But she called and said, Craig, Minnesota, I still watching my kids. Do I have to be up there all the time in Minnesota? I said, don't worry about it, Jill. She was worried about that, but anyway, and she was there from the beginning when when David and I co-wrote the script again. John Goodman, the sex guy from The Thing, and all these. John Goodman himself, Goodwin, was going to direct it. $200,000. Brinke Stevens was going to be one of the stars of it, and also in the movie was going to be Eric Roberts at the time because we were friends. And and Brinke Stevens was all one of my best friends, obviously. After all, she was on my second show with John Beekler and Forrest J. Ackerman. Forrest J. Ackerman, after being on my show, called me over to his house with Ted Newsom and Robert Burns. And Robert Burns, he says, look, I want to do a story on Microwave Massacre. Well, the next thing you know, Forrest J. Ackerman, because of my TV shows, doing a story on me in Famous Monsters magazine. So there's a tie into everything. all the goes back. There's a time to Joe Schoen, Brink Stevens, and carry it forward. I carry everything forward. And in fact, Bob Hayes used to come to my show. John Beacon and I co-starred him. I mean, you hired him to co-direct with John and be the DP for Tragic Magic with Bill Sanderson for Showtime. And he remembered that. And next thing you know, he's doing Phoenix the Warrior, directing it. And he'd be one of my best friends for years. And still, he says, Craig, count me in. He even wants to also help put money into Microwave Massacre and help Alan on it. So all these people from the past, from my old TV show, they're still my friends now. It's remarkable. So, and it's great that they remembered me, And then, do you remember when COVID shut everything down?
Oh, I remember.
Everything.
I was still working though, but
yeah. Well, I was a celebrity demo guy in Minnesota. I mean, they call me Mr. Hollywood, but for a couple of years, it wasn't. I got a lot of money for unemployment and stuff, right? So that's when they called me. Let's do Aggregation Murder Hornets, right? And all this other stuff. And these films started getting released. I mean, Tubi. Oh my God, they were being made. Hollywood wasn't. And do you know who contacted me? A good friend, Laurie Singer herself, Footloose. Her, Warlock. My God. She contacted me. She says, Craig, I'm so proud of you, Craig. When Hollywood was shut down, you were making these schlocky, fun films, Craig, but I'm so proud of you because you did it and they were showing. And I said, Laurie, how would you like to be in one sometime? She laughed. She laughed. She said, well, you know what she told me? Craig, anything's possible. From Laurie Singer. And it's so funny, 7 degrees of separation to Kevin Bacon, her, right? But I'm friends with the Bacons. Kira Sedgwick became very close friends with me. And what I love about her, she was in the what's his name? Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise, co-starred. And and the director, won the Academy Award for writing Midnight Express. So bad on him. The director, what's his name? Midnight. Oh God.
Alan Parker.
The Kennedy movie. No.
Alan Parker directed Midnight Express. Alan Parker directed it. Oliver Stone was the writer.
Oliver Stone. Excuse me, Oliver Stone. And so there's a direct tie to Oliver Stone, and he did Born on the 4th of July, and there Kira Sedgwick, major league in it, and she and I would become close friends. I mean, just as friends. In fact, last year on my birthday, July 8th, I'm actually on the phone with Sophie Bacon, and she said, we're all having birthday together. Your name will be brought up at my dad's place, a farm, because July 8th is my birthday and Kevin Bacon's birthday. So they had a cheers for me and back east to me and me to them. How about that? The Bacons. How about that for 7 degrees of separation? You know what I mean? And when Kathy Pacino passed away suddenly, she was always there. She was there for me immensely. Kira Bacon, oh my God. And her son is a musician too. Bacon, who is a composer. So I've been in touch with him down the road, maybe getting him involved somehow, And my manager is Matt Osborne for horror conventions. He has over 200 people, and he's the one that picked me up at Cleveland, Ohio last year. He says, and I had thousands of people there. He says, look, Craig, I want to represent you. I had as many people at my table as Tom Savini, and the cast of Sleepaway Camp, Felicia Rose in them. And what's his name was right next to me of a Trauma, the head of Trauma
Yeah,
Pictures.
Lloyd Kaufman. Yep.
Lloyd Kaufman was there, and he'd come by even though I had and sneak by and have a beer with me in my booth. He said, Craig, aren't you glad you didn't make a deal with me for Microwave Massacre? You actually made money. Joking. But that's, he says, Craig, I've always wanted to do a movie with you. Maybe sometime we can. Lloyd Kaufman, for God's sakes. Isn't that great? Him. He says, Craig, you're a cult classic. Lloyd Kaufman. That's so great. And so anyway, Matt Osborne has 200 people, including John Gutenberg, what's her name, of Night of the Comet, and the blonde,
Oh,
Kelly Maroney or
Maroney. Yeah.
whatever. No, she's in it. He says sometime you're all going to be a show together with her, also, Craig, because they want you out there. So that's why I picked you up. The meter talent management. I'm one of theirs, and they have what's his name. I'm so bad at names, but the Jeepers Creepers too. A father that kills the guy with a him. He's in it
Ray
too. So I have all
Winston, I
these
think. Yeah.
people. Yeah, all these people. I mean, Steve Gutenberg, for God's sakes. Kelly Maroney is great. If I can go on a show with him, it would be wonderful. Are you familiar with the cast of Sleepaway Camp?
I haven't done any interviews from those films, but I have met Felicia Rose a couple times.
Oh yeah, she's
So
great. In
yeah,
fact,
I'm hoping to get her on here at some point. She said she's interested, so
I'll send you sometimes some of the photos of her and I having a blast at Cleveland, Ohio. Oh my God, we were all drinking. It was wonderful. People bought us beer. Never had to buy a beer. Matt Osborne is the great. I mean, he's involved in movies himself. Matt Osborne. He would be a great guy for you to interview too. I mean,
sure.
all the people he represents. Joe Willinson would be great for you too. Oh my God, Joe Willinson. I want to bring him up. Obviously, he's great. And he's the nicest manager in the world. That's how I did all these films like Murder Hornets. And he's also one of the producers of them. And he wants to get behind our radio show, which is called Weird Wild Hollywood, by the way. So everyone look out for this, Weird Wild Hollywood, because we're going to have everyone on the show. I mean, we're talking Pamela Clay, kind of making up for Kathy Pacino. William Lashbrook, Kathy Pacino's, husband, was a major radio guy too, which is great. And Lou Pizarro, you can watch Operation Repo now, and he has been ever since the number one name for Hispanics in the world. His name, period. Nothing bigger. And he did a movie last year, this and that, and even the movie Operation Repo came out years ago. So. But we bring everyone to the table. I'm going to have, these great scream queens on. At a show I was with, I hung out all week. In fact, every time I go to Hollywood, we're going to have coffee or drink because she was great at PJ Souls herself.
Yeah. I never had her on here, but I
PJ
met
Souls.
her at Frightmare in the Falls. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because back in the day, I mean, Ted White was one of my dearest friends, right? Ted White, my God, Jason.
I love Ted White.
And we used to go out because you know what? I think I told you maybe before that in the early 80s I met Bob Hevel. I do these movies. Bob Hevel was the number one Spanish actor for action films. And we used to go to this drink together. And one time he says, Craig, come up to the house. I want you to meet my brother-in-law and sister. And he's having a wake for people. And he says, can you bring your friend to maybe help serve drinks for me? And so I go up there, knock on the door, and it's Lee Van freaking Cleef. The number one of the top 5 Western actors in the world, especially in Europe.
Yep.
Ever since that day, he was like my father. Every time, Christmas time, I spent Christmas night at his place. And then, oh my God. And in fact, he says, Craig, I'm going to, I tell my manager I don't like doing talk shows, and they want me on to do on the Johnny Carson show because of the master. And it's in my contract. It says, but before that, I was telling everyone, if I'm not going on my best friend's TV show, Greg Muckler, I'm not going on yours. It's a lie. Levi Cleave told me that. I ended up being the pallbearer at his funeral. His sister, his wife said, Craig, he would love to have you. He always considered you a son. And one day, this is a great story. I became friends also with what's the name? Remember this? God, of Hellraiser, the vicious guy from Dirty Harry. Him, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Hellraiser, the star of Hellraiser. Anyway,
Yes, I know you
we were at a show.
yes.
Anyway, we went. In fact, a few years ago, I interviewed him with Bob. It came over to the studio to Joe, and I'm interviewing for him for an hour. Just the nicest guy. And I told him the story. He says, "Guess what, man? God, I wish so bad a name." But anyway, I said, "Yeah." One day I was up. Lee Van Cleef says, "Hang around, Craig. Have a beer. My buddy's coming over. Wants to play pool with you." And who comes over to his house? Clint Eastwood. Oh shit, man! Clint Eastwood played pool with him. And we're talking. I said, we're talking about you. So you were talking about me. So yeah. He says, he was almost scared of you. You played this part so evil. But he said you were the nicest guy. He says, he told you that? He says, well, thank you for telling me that. That means a lot to me. Isn't that funny? With Eastwood playing pool with Clint Eastwood at Lee Van Cleef's house. And I look over. He said, look at that one picture. There's a signed autograph of all of the pictures right behind, and we're looking at together. Lee Van Cleef, Clint, and Eli Wallach, Clint Eastwood, and Lee Van Cleef together for the good, the bad, and the ugly. How about that for a story, huh?
Yep.
And Lee Van Cleef's, you know what? If you're around sometime, maybe you can go on Craig's show. It's really fun. He has a lot of cool people on. He says, well, maybe if you're a friend of Lee's, you're a friend of mine. It's that great Clint Eastwood. In fact, at the funeral, we were all together. In fact, Ron Howard's dad, God, what's his name?
Rance Howard.
Howard. I met him before, and they were like best friends. So we were talking, and I met him there. In fact, at the funeral, he says, "Oh, this is great." And the other Howard, not around, but Clint Howard. We talked obviously and stuff, Ice Cream Man or whatever. But it was so funny. We were at it. In fact, my name was in the thing, and all these great people there, and I'm right next to Clint Eastwood. We're talking. My wife at the time, Laura, thought he's, oh my God, Craig, he's still hot. But Clint Eastwood. Oh yeah, man. So it's amazing. Then a month later, I get a call from a European newspaper, the number one on the Western. They wanted a story on me, how I became close friends with Lee Van Cleef. So the next thing I know, I'm in a European paper. My name about how I was a pallbearer, and I was stories I could tell. Like the one story I could tell, it says, Craig, come on down. I'm going to meet you at John Carpenter and Escape from New York, right?
Yeah.
Escape from New York. So anyway, I'm driving down the side with Lee Van Cleef, for God's sake, going down there, and the Sepulveda Basin stood out for New York, where, where the president lands. Who? Lee Van Cleef, right? And there, who's there? But Kurt frickin' Russell and John Carpenter. So during the break, I'm having coffee with Kurt Russell and John Carpenter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And John says, "Oh my God, you did Microwave Massacre, Craig. That's a classic." John Carpenter knew of my movie, knew of the cult film status of Microwave Massacre. John Carpenter. You know what I mean? And Kurt Russell says, "Oh my God, yeah, it tells me you're one of his dear friends." Like, but well, he shook my hand up and down. Kurt Russell, you know what I mean? Can't buy that. And all night I watched him film. It was a classic, Escape from New York. You know what I
So,
mean?
so what projects do you have coming up that you're working on?
Well, I think I told you I just did this project for uh, you know let's see here. I actually just shot a film for the hold on, let's see. Let's, those brothers that did God. But anyway, James and Frankel and all the producers of those Sharknado type movies, over 100 movies I did for them, and they
Uh-huh.
had this film come in on this monster from Cape Cod. It's actually incredible. So they called me. This is out of all the people, all the people that we want on, out of all the cult people, we decided we want you to introduce the film. Yeah, Frank Durant. Let's see here. Hold on. Let me just. I'll find it here. But Frank Durant is big back to back. He said these guys are from the East Coast. A lot of those Sharknado type movies.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this says we want you. And just look at my phone because I actually shot it a couple of weeks ago here. So, Frank Durant. Yeah. Anyway, I shot the film and from the Twin Cities here, and it was remarkable. I said, "Yeah, look at the what's your name, brothers? They have classic cult films, but not quite the same stature as Microwave Master." So I made fun of it. And I said, "Look, they want me to introduce this film, and it's crazy like they're crazy, but not as crazy as me. After all, I made famous theatrical films, Microwave Massacre, Malibu High, blah, 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 blah. But sit down, relax. I suggest you have a couple joints and a couple beers. And if this film is too scary, you can turn it off and watch one of my movies." I will never tell the producers that. You know what? So I'm going. I just did this for them. You know what I mean? And it's actually amazing. What was just see here, 16. Yeah, yeah. Frank Durant is one he's done a lot of stuff from back east. So he actually brought me on, and it's nice when out of all the people in the world they ask me, out of everyone. Even James Balsamo or you name it. So anyway, I'm honored to do that. So I can keep you posted later on that when that comes up. But also, finally, we're trying to get our bigger films off the ground. I talked with major investors, ripped to shreds. I told you for years.
Uh-huh.
And Alan Holden wants to direct it, and Bob Hayes, who would like to get involved, obviously. And I talk with Spencer Walden every week. He says, "Craig, you got to do this." I mean, you talk to people. It's about being the best werewolf film ever. So he's on board. I even had Kira Sedgwick herself has the script and the microwave script. She has it. David Bond sent it to her, Kira Sedgwick. Now there's a film also, but I don't know. It's a bigger film called Evil Black Widow. It's beautiful. It's based on a certain narcissistic affair I had. I'll just put it that way. And it's so great. David Bond and I helped with, and Kat Pacino helped write it too. Believe it or not, Bill Lashbrook. And right after it's done, a few years ago, I sent it to Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant. And he was right. He says, "Craig, my God, I love you. Get this going. I'd love to be in it. I'd love to be in it." So Hugh Grant. So anyway, until it's ready, we're still in touch, Hugh Grant. But he says also, "Craig, I'd love to if Spencer Wilding. I always want to work with him, and he's right here in the UK. So I have all these tie-ins to the England. But by the way, just so you know, Spencer Wilding said, Microwave Massacre came out in 1983. We made a separate deal for like $50,000 for Microwave Massacre for Radiant Films in England, by the way. And it was one of the top 5 films that year in London. And it's John Cleese's favorite film. John Cleese. Monty Python. Holy cow. To get that type of stature. And Spencer Wilding says, "Look, Craig, if I ever do a show, you'd go over big. Maybe I can bring you to a London show sometime for me, and you'll meet all my friends because you'd go over big because Microwave is still big over there in London." It comes from Spencer Wilding, Darth Vader, Star Wars Rogue One, Dungeons and Dragons, The Devil Conspiracy, him, and oh yeah, so it's pretty cool that to do these and to have these people want to work with me. That's the most magnetic thing about it. And like Pam McClay says, well, of course, you should get, obviously, I know the situation with you and Jill, but she's still a good actress. So, I mean, don't let your difficulties as a relationship get in the way of business. I said, you're right. I don't want to, you're right. I'm a businessman too. And I don't care, I was just never hire Charles Manson, for example, but there's limits I won't do. You know what I mean? Or Lizzie Borden, I would never hire her. But there's a reason why I use Joe Schulman in a Tabloid Energy. There's a reason, and I could have asked Lori Singer, who's Lori Singer, for God's sakes, right? And I think she even mentioned, says, "Craig, you're a good person. You stuck to your guns and had her, Joe Schulman." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so I did. I didn't think things getting away. I mean, a lot bigger name, because you know what? I believed in her. So that's the thing. I still believe in people that I've worked with in the past. That's the way I look now. Forgive people. I mean, I went through a tough time this last year. I had some medical issues, and my daughter Naomi Muckler, I love her. She has 2 beautiful grandkids, 2.5 and 4 years old, Sage and Freya, and her husband Joe. When I was going through a very tough time medically, now I'm 90% better. She was baptized in the church and brought me to God, to Jesus Christ. She did really help me a lot. And in my struggles in the last 13 months, it's been tough. Jesus Christ has been there for me. In fact, he was great by Naomi, who loved Jill, because like family. She says, she has health issues, so she's gonna come through Fro too, and you two are gonna be like brother and sister again. And it's all, as she said, son, it's Jesus. So my daughter has brought me into the faith, which is, losing people like Kathy Pacino. Charles Rickard died of Parkinson's disease just a week ago. He was one of my best friends that I met him through Dwayne Whitaker, right? Dwayne Whitaker.
Yep.
1979. Pulp Fiction, best friends. Yep. So we've been in touch with Charles. And he was my #1 show. And he moved back to LA. From LA. And in the last 10 years, he had Parkinson's disease. It's horrible, and passed away. Now, Charlie Rickard and I met Tony and Jean Bua Love of Life, right, in 1984. They started the #1 acting class in the world in Burbank called Acting for Life. And when they did Pepper Street, the #1 musical, running musical with, they starred Joe Schoen. So one day I had my show, Both Friends, and them. They were good friends of mine. And they had the #1 acting class, so I'd go to acting class. In fact, I met Brad Pitt there at the acting class. But he was nobody, you know. And he was nobody at the time. You know, so, and eventually, as luck would have it, she was on my show. She ended up getting engaged to Brad Pitt and dumped him. She dumped Brad Pitt before he was big, right? But anyway, this is a side note. Do you know over drinks what I asked Jill? What I told Jill? Joan? Guess what? Hello? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
I was having drinks, and I said, you know, Jill, I'm hetero, and I wouldn't have dumped Brad Pitt. Is there something you want to tell me, Craig? I said, no, but I dumped Brad Pitt. It's kind of funny, you know what I mean? But as things would go on, obviously, that tie in directly to Brad Pitt. So as luck would have it, Barbara Ligeti, I told you, famed producer, wants to get involved with me, produced her in Hurly Burly with Sean Penn and Danny Aiello and Mar Willingham in 1988. And I went down to the theater once, and I met, and who would come over before she really got entitled with Brad Pitt? Brad Pitt showed up, right, to watch. She was she was actually dating Keanu Reeves before that, started Babe in Toyland, and I met Keanu back then, so no biggie. That I kind of lost contrast with Jill and stuff 2 years later, right? But the time, and Barbara Ligeti, she's been in touch. She said, you know, Craig, Billy says you do. For them, I want to do your show and help on the book. It's going to be big. And she said, you know what? It's so funny. When Jill, every night, who would show up at the showing for Jill? Keanu Reeves, every night for at least a year, because he loved her so much. Isn't that funny? You know? Yeah, Keanu Reeves. And he had his issues later. He has, you know, people dying, but he's one of the nicest guys ever, Keanu Reeves, you know? A humanitarian.
Yes, he is.
Now,
Absolutely.
through the years, I become, you know, because of Midwest, I'm from Minnesota, and one of the top people in Minnesota. And I want to announce there's a thing called Range Fan Con up on the Iron Range in Minnesota, July 11th, 12th, and 13th. I think out of Virginia, Minnesota. And I've just been, it's a big show every year. And I've been just invited as a keynote speaker. There'll be other guests there, but and there's going to be a lot of publicity on me. So I want everyone to come up there. Just look it up, Range Con. They want me to announce on this show. And I'm even trying to get Ellen Holzman up there. I even put it out, if you will, because you knew where I'm from. And if we're friends by then, I certainly bring Jill Schoen back, because after all, we did a Tableau Identity together, and much of it was filmed in Minnesota. So I just want to announce that too, because you know, my tie-ins with everyone. Now I become friends with Ashton Kutcher too, because when I was doing the Tableau Identity, as it turns out, David Wall, the number one sexual theorist in the world, was working at the Iowa University, and that's where originally Keanu Reeves went, from Iowa. So he knew of the Tableau Identity. We became friends. But every birthday, he sends me a birthday tape, a video. Greg, he'd just be singing on it. Yeah, but he'd be singing. Keanu Reeves says, well, this is just a Thursday, but not just any Thursday, because today it's your birthday. You know, it was great. Every July 8th. So I always wanted, I said, you know, let's be in touch. If I actually get a film, when it's ready, I'm definitely asking you, and maybe his wife, you know. What's her name? Keanu Reeves' wife. Anyway, so it's cool having people, a network like these people. My God, you know, people like him, you know. And I got to tell you, Garth Howard, oh, what's his name? Hank Grant. Remember Hank Grant?
No.
3 Days of the Condor. And Grant was the mailman in 3 Days of the Condor. And he's in all these films, cop movies, Hank Grant. And so anyway, through Messenger, I was friends with, of all people, Robert Redford. 9 years ago, Microwave Massacre, Don't Go in the Oven, Jefferson Richards was executive producer at Screen Gems. And he says, and lives in Utah. And as it turns out, he was one of the heads of Sundance for Robert Redford. So he calls David Bond and myself, says, Craig, your script is brilliant. He gave the script of Microwave Don't Go in the Oven to the president of Screen Gems. They wanted to do it for $4 million. The president asked David and I for the rights, everything to do it. They wanted to do it. At the time, Dee Wallace signed an agreement, and her daughter, Gabriel Stone, right? Gabriel Stone, her daughter, Christopher Stone's daughter. It still looks just like her. So anyway, there was a time back, and then we were going to do Microwave $4 million. And then they did a $150 million film that bombed, and that was the end of Microwave Massacre at Screen Gems, believe it or not. But Jefferson Richards helped put on new Robert Redford, right? And Grant. So anyway, 2 weeks ago on Saturday, I get a long message from Robert Redford. It says, Craig, Hank Grant, he was an honor worker. He added so much to the role as the mailman, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And Robert Redford brings up Microwave Massacre, says, oh, my God, he brought so much joy to the world, Jackie Vernon, and what he brought to Microwave Massacre. And he went on and on about my movie. And then toward the end, he says, Craig, thank you. Being in touch, I'm so appreciative of people like in the business like you. Thank you, Craig. Best Robert Redford. You know what I mean? So another tie-in to people I know. And Hank Grant, this is ran into like a month ago at the supermarket with Joe Schoen. He brought up Rip to Shreds because he was, and she was, oh, I don't want to hear from him. He was kind of joking, right? After all, I am the producer of it, right? But maybe she got irritated as she didn't know that we were planning on doing it now. So anyway, but it's funny, Hank Grant knew Joe Schoen. And Hank Grant, if you look him up, he was Jackie Vernon's best friend. So I used to get a call from Jackie Vernon, right? And Jackie Vernon was a regular on the Johnny Carson show, everything, right? You go on. He was one of the top 10 stand-up comics in the world, Jackie Vernon. And I go to his house for dinner. Who's there? Hank Garrett, excuse me. And I ran into him at times. And so Robert Redford's right about Jackie Vernon. Back in 1985, I get a call from Jackie Vernon. Come down to the Improv. But for him, who had a TV show on the Improv, I go down there. Jackie Vernon's there. Bud Freeman, he says, my friend's coming, wants to meet you. Anyway, I said, okay, we're having a drink. And who comes in right next? I say, he says, Craig, my friend Jackie, that I have to thank you because his favorite film, he says, is going to live on and on and on. And I agree, is Microwave Massacre. And do you know who that person was who bought me a drink? Robin Williams. Robin Williams himself. Oh my God. I mean, the time to all these people continues now. Ever since I moved out to LA, it's amazing, and everyone will still work with me. There's a special on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre documentary how they made it. Toby Hooper and everyone. I was watching it. And Robert Burns was named #1 art director in the world for Paris Magazine. And one day I hear from, I have a drink from a friend of mine with Wes Craven at a bar who knew of Malibu High. He says, Craig, I want you to use my art director. It'll save you a lot of money. From Microwave Massacre, says Robert Burns. I meet with Robert Burns. He's my art director. He does everything for $2,000 freaking bucks. In fact, the art director was named one of the best ever for Microwave Massacre. But as we'll go on, he would do The Howling, all of these films named the best in the world. And I got to tell you this. It's heartbroken. Every time he came to L.A. from Texas, he and a girlfriend stayed at my place all the time. And I didn't know this, but one night I get a call from Robert Burns years ago, not that long ago. And he said, Craig, like at midnight, he says, Craig, I just got to tell you this. I love you. Out of all the films I've ever done, all of them, I always think of the most fond of Microwave Massacre because of you and the crew, the way you treated everyone. It was actually fun. And I had films like Texas Chainsaw, they weren't fun at all. They're gruesome, but yours were. And anytime, if you ever did a film again, I'm your man. And do you know what happened? The next afternoon, I get a call from Ted Newsom, right? He says, Craig, did you hear who just passed away? I said, no. Oh my God, really? He had cancer. Who? Robert Burns just committed suicide last night. Probably right after he talked with me. It's amazing. I mean, I cried. Who is the last person he thought of before he died was me. And how much he loved doing Microwave Massacre. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And to this day, I just watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how they made it, how gruesome it was. Toby Hooper, who I did meet, to him. In fact, Mick Garris is one of my best friends, Mick Garris, right? That he showed up at the screening at my signing with Kate Parker a few years ago for Tabloid Identity Dark Devil, because he showed up for me, right? In fact, one time, years ago, I'm going to meet with Dee Wallace, Bob, and with David Bond, and Mick Garris, and I invited Dee. So it was probably even just only 5-6 years ago. We're having coffee, and Mick comes in, and anyway, as it turns out, Dee said, "Oh, I have to go do a movie and a TV show, of all things, with my friend Chris Mulkey up in Montreal or somewhere. Can I bring my daughter Gabriel? She'd love to meet you guys." I said, "Yeah." Anyway, we're sitting there, Mick Garris, The Stand, Hocus Pocus he wrote, right? Psycho 4, all these freaking movies. And he's the nicest guy. I met him in 1979. And she comes in, all dressed to the hilt, and he says, "Oh my God, Craig, she looks just like Dee, a young Dee." She sits down, we're talking. It was wonderful. And right after the meeting, she called, "Craig, can I have Mick's email address?" I said, "Oh, yeah." But it's kind of funny, all the time to everyone, including Mick freaking Garris, who read Microwave Massacre, by the way. He says, "Craig, I'm directing my own stuff, but do it, man. It's a great script." Mick Garris, Stephen King's #1 go-to man, is Mick Garris. The Stand is, in fact, I have a couple showings, theatrical, was named probably one of the top 5 Stephen King movies, miniseries of all time. You know what I mean? And Robert Burns, I got, believe it or not, through Mick Garris, when they were doing The Howling, I got Robert Burns in as the art director for The Howling. I did. The Howling. Dee Wallace. Joe Don. I mean, it's brilliant. It's amazing. So, what goes around comes around. When I have friends working with me, I try to help them out too. That's the name of the game in this business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and these are top-notch people. Oh my God, no one ever could. I mean, and anyway, so Microwave Massacre. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but the Don Eaton I use in Malibu High. We use a lot of people from Malibu High. Why not? From Brooks Institute, brilliant. Malibu High. Are you kidding me? One of the top 10 drive-in films ever. Crown International's biggest hit back then. And so Don Eaton says, "Craig, Robert Burns, we said, we're going to go find the house that's going to be a studio. It's a huge mansion, and it's vacant." So we go, we're going to go talk to the owner. We go knock on the door. Door opens, and who is it? Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. "Oh, come on in." Says, show me around. Says, "No shit." Mickey Dolenz. He said, "Yeah, man, this is great." I says, "And do you know how much you write a check right now? Do you know how much we got that house for? It saved us probably most of the budget." $1,000. I gave a check to Mickey Dolenz. He said, now just don't ruin the house. So during the shoot, he would show up every now and then and watch Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The stuff, the people we got for Microwave Massacre was incredible. I got, probably 5 people that worked on Phantasm. In fact, what's the name? One of our main electricians, he would go on to direct for Universal Phantasm 2. And so I had people from Phantasm. I had the #1 art director of both The Hills Have Eyes and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, the people involved in this film were just the best, you know? And it was written up all over the people we were using. It was just, who would have thought? It took a few years to get released, but who would have thought? Because no one, Paramount Pictures, this is Craig. We love it. It's totally different, but we don't know how to release it. We never seen anything like it ever, ever. But in the long run, that's why it's now one of the top 10 cult films in the world. And what's his name? Joe Williamson. He says, Craig, I have a good shot of getting you this year on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He said, I really do, because in the last 5 years, what you've done has been remarkable by itself. All these cult films. Besides Malibu High and Microwave Massacre, 2 of the top. I mean, my God, Quentin Tarantino himself. Last year on TV, you could look it up on probably YouTube or whatever, with a poster of Malibu High in the background for like 15 minutes. He's talking about why it's such a great film. And here I was one of the top 3 producers. I'm in the film and own 10% of the film. It was shot at Brooks Institute. Who would have ever thought of Quentin Tarantino? And shows it at his movie The Beverly every 2 years. Through the grapevine, he obviously knew of Microwave Massacre too, because of the connection to Quentin Tarantino. Holy shit, man! My first film. Robin Williams, for God's sakes. In fact, Robin Williams at the Improv, right? Everyone's at the freaking Improv, and Bud Freeman had on national TV night at the Improv. So he comes up to me and Jackie, because I met him a few times. He says, Jackie tells me you have this great comedy act, a stuttering act. And the guy that's there right now is bombing out. The other guy did show up. Go on, can you go on the stage? He says, yeah. And there's like 20 people in there. I said, yeah. Oh, why not, man? I had a couple of drinks. I go in there, and who's in the front row? Bud Freeman, Jackie Vernon, and Robin Williams, right? I get up and I do my stuttering. I said, yeah, everybody, I'm famous because I did Malibu High on these famous films, but and I'm on. So I go on to tell the truth. So anyway, I'm on to tell the truth. There's 3 of us, and myself and 2 other celebrity guests, and there's a celebrity panel in front of me. So we're talking, and then a celebrity guy says, all right, #1, what is your name, please? The actor says, my name is Craig Muckler. #2, what is your name, please? My name is Craig Muckler. #3, what is your name, please? Muckler. And they're all howling. I swear to God, Robin Williams was doing a gut laugh. Honest to God, they were laughing. Robin Williams was laughing hysterically. and then I followed up this, and then I took a time machine to the Charger Light Brigade. I was the head of the French Army. And we were all there, and the Russians are coming. I said, when they get close, #1, I'm going to say, load your weapons. #2, aim your rifles. #3, shoot. So anyway, they're all waiting for me, and they're all Russian armies coming. says, we're going to mow them down. And then they're getting closer and closer. It says, all right, load your weapons. They all load their weapons. I says, now aim your rifles. They aim their rifles. And then I said, shoot, 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 shoot. And we got wiped out. Robert Williams was howling on that one. Isn't that funny? Crazy. So that's my improv story. Who would have thought? My stutter became this was my golden fleece. This is my golden fleece. As a kid, I bullied, stuttered, held back. Rock Hudson's mother influenced me. I was held back a year, but I ended up with teachers, Rock Hudson, and the head of the university. He's not, so he's just brilliant, just different. And I am graduating at the University of Minnesota in 3 years. 3 years, and moved to LA. Within 3 years, I'm making Malibu High. And no one ever gave me a chance. No one, except for a few people like teachers. And within 4 years, I have a #1 talk show on Group W. It's just, and I still have ups and downs. That's why I'm writing my book, Ups and Downs. I made all this money in Malibu High, and then I didn't get the money I want because of distribution that happens in this business. So I've been through it all, But my friends, we're friends back when I used to have parties at 1-bedroom apartments at a Magic Theater. And I became friends like Linda Hamilton. I've been friends with Larry, Darryl, and Daryl. One time I'm at CBS Studios watching them shoot Newhart. And Bob Newhart and Larry, Darryl, and Daryl, they're famous on the Johnny Carson show all the time. And I'm sitting down, and John Bolt said, we also did Leprechaun, the first victim of Leprechaun. And he comes up and brings this girl, Linda, beautiful, just telling me, he says, yeah, why don't you sit down together and then we'll all go for drinks later. I said, okay. And stupid me says, oh, Linda Sampson. This is Linda Sampson. She says, Craig, you did Microwave Massacre? Oh, that's amazing. And stupid me, she had no makeup on. And you know what I said? She said, Linda, John tells me you're an actress. What have you been in? I felt like shit. Well, I did Children in the Corn, and I'm in The Terminator. And then I looked at her, and I felt like I went up from 6 feet to 1 inch tall. I said, oh my God. So I've only seen her live like 3 times. So she laughed. So anyway, we all go for drinks. Bill Sanderson's our Blade Runner. Don Bolt said, Tom, whatever, Poppin' Fools. And we're all in Linda Hamilton from the Newark. They just taped it live. So we're at this bar down the street. And then Bill Sanderson, knowing him, one of my best friends, he says, Greg, you're a big science fiction fan. Tell me, what is that movie out now with Arnold Schwarzenegger? He said, oh, no. And Linda Hamilton laughed, and she puts her arms around me. Oh, don't kid, Craig. That's why I love you, Craig. You had no idea, and that's why I love you. And we became close friends ever since. Ever since. Linda Hamilton. One time I asked her to come on my TV show. That everyone, she's a joke. She come over to my house sometimes for drinks. I go over to her house for parties. They did the movie Black Moon Rising with Tommy Lee Jones and Bill Sanderson. We went to the premiere showing at her house, big party, right? It was all these people. And she showed me all over the house. Then she brought me downstairs. Greg, you have to leave. She gave me a big kiss in the door. I said, oh, yeah, what the hell? But it's so funny. She used to come to my place for a drink. This is freaking Linda Hamilton. And so all these people back in the day, they're just making it, but I became their friends because people I knew. My 1-bedroom apartment was a 1-bedroom apartment that had parties all over for all the people in the valley, including John Robinson, my next door neighbor, the the drummer for Rufus and Shaka Khan from Iowa, named the #1 drummer in the world, lived with me, moved right after me to Los Angeles. He comes at the pool and says, Craig, you're the guy from Malibu, huh? You're the movie guy from Minnesota? I says, yeah. Well, I'm the drummer from Iowa. And he tells me the story. He says, Craig, this is fantastic. 3 weeks ago, I'm drumming at a band in Iowa City. And I just graduated from Juilliard as the #1 drummer in the East Coast. And then I'm drumming in a band, and Rufus Shaka Khan comes up to me and says, we need a new drummer. He says, this morning, Craig, I just went down and signed the agreement for Quincy Jones as the their #1 session drummer and the drummer for Rufus Shaka Khan. 3 years later, he's showing me in his apartment how he's doing off the wall. And he became one of my dearest friends ever to this day. And all these people will hang out from my movie theater. They all come and meet me. They say, you're so nice, Craig, and you're going to get us all. I mean, how many people can say hung out with Dee Wallace? One time, I mean, God, what's the name of Joe Don Baker showing by at Walking Tall? He'd come to the theater. And we go out for drinks. I says, oh my God, Craig, blah, 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 blah. And he told me how I shied. He said, they screwed me out of I shied, Craig, NBC. He said all these personal stuff. And it's funny that a few years later, I become one of the best friends of Bo Svensson and started Walking Tall too on the TV series. And isn't this wild? A few weeks ago, when the fires hit Los Angeles, I used to go up to Bo Svensson's house all the time and watch. I mean, here. And I called him. He says, Craig, I love you, man. I just lost my house. But I've been in touch over, so I'm always there for all those people I told you I partied with, I had fun with. They're all my friends. So I've been in touch everyone through all the fire. Incredible. All my close friends. How close they became. Pal McClay, getting close, most of them people made it okay. So it's amazing how, because I remember going fires and living in Los Angeles, hanging around with Dill Shannon. Now this is the best story ever, one of the best. I used to hang out with Del Shannon's daughter, Runaway, because she'd come to the theater. And next thing I know, I'm friends with them. I sing at the Pickwick's Pub with, and so I dated Del Shannon's daughter, and then we stopped, and we became like best friends. And I had my TV show, Craig Muckler's Hollywood Showcase, so she'd bring some of her friends on my show, did skits. Del Shannon's daughter. So one time, I became like family to Del Shannon, one of the biggest rock stars ever. And one Christmas, they said, come on over, Christmas Eve, bring your girlfriend with. Yeah, so I went over with my girlfriend. Next day, we're having eggnog and brandy, and I brought a signed copy to Del Shannon of Microwave Massacre, the VHS, like later 80s. And I sit down, we're all talking, and the door opens. And this guy comes in and says, hey, everybody, Merry Christmas. He says right down to me, and Del Shannon says, Tom, this is one of my best friends ever. This is one of the top producers in the world of films. I shake his hand. Tom Petty, the biggest rock star right then. Tom freaking Petty. He says, you did this film? So yeah, you know about it. So we're talking and fun. Del's my best friend, and in fact he wrote about him in a song, "Running Down a Dream." Del and I are singing "Runaway," right? And he gets up an hour and a half later and leaves, shake my hand, and says, Del, can I borrow Craig's movie? And he goes out the door with Microwave Massacre in hand. See, this is just one of my many crazy stories for calling my friends I met. And that's why my book's going to see him celebrity magnet from server to talk show host. And it was like natural for me. I don't know why. Maybe ever because at age 13, I'm having my first drink at Rock Hudson's house. Hyena, I don't know. Crazy. Meeting Elizabeth Taylor, as a kid. So when I moved to Hollywood, there was no biggie. I stayed, when I first moved at Rock Hudson's mother's house, for God's sakes. Went to Rock Hudson. I mean, he was doing all the, Macmillan Alive, the #1 TV star in the world, right to then. And I met his house and left out in 4 years and doing 2 major movies. And with everyone on my show, I had all the Ray in my show. At the time, my God, that started the thing. I had all these B-movie actors on. Ted Newsom was my best friend. He did the special on Hammer Films. He went to England, stayed 1 year with Christopher Lee, and his movie came out through Rhino Records tapes, which re-released Microwave Massacre. So there, Ted Newsom, one of my best friends. And all the people he brought to the table. I had everyone on my show. Misty Rowe from Hyena. All the Ray, my God, icon. The sergeant in the Green Beret, right? Everyone. I had Ann Robinson on my show, my God, with a clip from War of the Worlds. Dick Clark, whatever Clark from the Giant Claw. John Agar. And then, as it turns out, Ted Newsom did the Naked Monster, originally called, it's called The Naked Monster with Brink Stevens, with, what's his name, the star of the original The Thing, Whirly Birds, him, starred in it, with Brink Stevens, and I was in it as the punk guy, where my monster picks my car, kicks it, and my head falls into Brink Stevens' hands, and I said, help, and she screamed and threw it in the air, And then Brink Stevens she was on my second show, and my God, here, all these years later, we're still best friends and working together. All the Scream Queens, it's amazing, freaking amazing. All these years later, So we're going to continue this, and I even talked with James Balsamo this because a few years ago I did star in what the heck's the name of it? But the prequel to Mark and Clark World Adventures, Mind Melters 2. That's it, Mind Melters 2. I'm in it. So next thing we know, we raised money, $10,000. There we shot Mark and Clark World Adventures with Bob Cummings. Managed to get Eric Roberts in the film. The great Christian in the film, and my great friend Joe Estevez. He was on at least 5 of my shows, and in my movie, The Flesh Merchant. Mike Tristano, I'm in it. I helped produce it. He's in it. I'm in all these main people, and so anyway, they're all my friends. All these years later, it's amazing. Joe Estevez, and then he's in the film. He said, "Of course, I'm doing it for Craig." Eric Roberts says, "It's Craig's film, of course, I'm doing it." So they'll do my films because of me, which is amazing. So Mark and Clark World Adventures did a lot of great reviews. They all get great reviews, crazy, zany, or not. And they get out there on Tubi. I have between everything, I probably have 12 films on Tubi right now. And the Harbinger, we did it in 2018. Jill could have been in the film, but she was having issues, so we did the Harbinger. Brought in as a producer, I crewed one half of it. Next thing you know, we got Madeline McGrath, starred the Black Phone, in the film. Who was just last night, I think it was the Saturn Awards, gave away an award. Are you kidding me? And she, but she did the Harbinger. She was after she did the Black Phone, so it really helped big time. Next thing you know, the Harbinger goes out and wins Best Director of the Year for me at the Twin Cities Film Festival, and plays theaters. Had the world premiere at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and I helped put on the radio show for Lou Pizarro's radio, including Milo McGraw, everyone connected to the film. Well, that's what I've done, and I think, and I gave Jim credit for whatever reason. And I think all my energy went into me and this stuff, and next thing you know, it was happening. In the last 7 years to produce, I've been involved in 15 films. It's incredible. Anyway, that's the scoop.
Well, that's quite, yeah. Well, Craig, it was great.
See what I mean? I could go on, but we have a lot more on our next show, okay?
Sure. Well, Craig, it was great having you come on here today and talk about your endless adventures and accounts, and yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
you got anything else before we close off?
No, really, just watch for myself. Hope they give us a little bit. And if anyone, I'm always asking for investors. You can always find me on Facebook.
There you go.
Why not? Investors are always there. That's responsible, and always been involved. If you're an investor, you get a producer's role, but you also could be in the film. I mean, I'm talking big film. You know what I mean? I mean, even a $20,000 film is for my showing. I mean, are you kidding me? These films are shown and get written up worldwide. So just follow me, and maybe get involved with me. Okay, that's
There
what.
you go.
Yeah. So till next time.
Well, Craig, I bid you a great day. Of course, we all know you from Microwave Massacre and Malibu High and Angry Asian Murder Hornets and all those things. So, uh, and of course, we're both involved in several James Balsamo movies. So,
We have. Yeah, I
yeah.
know.
Anyway, I bid you a
and,
good day.
and oh, and D Wallace too. Remember that.
Yes. I bid you a great day, Craig, and
Thank
you
you,
take
man.
care.
And you too. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Bye bye.
All right.